Well, we're back at it with Madam Savvy for a second here because yesterday I saw her tweet, I see, rules for thee, not for me, responding to infamous voice actor ProZD, aka I forget what his actual name is, Sung Wan Cho. That was it. Yeah, Sung Wan Cho. And I saw that and I was just laughing because I thought it was really funny. But then I went on to record my video about the craziness in the UK, and it turns out in the middle of recording, this whole situation got a bunch crazier because Sung Wan Cho, ProZD, was really mad on Twitter, made a whole rant, and then apparently left Twitter. Oh yeah, forgot to point this out, but I mean, clearly on screen you could see that ProZD had blocked Savvy, apparently because he didn't like this tweet that Savvy made saying, "Aren't you the blow-up pool ball who said you have to look like the character you voice?" In a tweet that we can't see anymore because, as mentioned, he kind of protected his entire account, locked down his entire account, and then left Twitter. But there is a video that we're gonna watch because our good buddy Rev has covered this situation. And I believe he's going to talk about everything that happened. I mean, surely, right? Surely that's going to happen. So let's take a look at what Rev says. I really want to make a death joke in there, but it's so overdone. I'd probably just sound lame. So I'm not even going to do that. Let's just play the video.
Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So once again, no VTuber model for today. I am traveling around for the Labor Day holiday. So I hope you guys are enjoying that.
Hope you're having a good holiday, Rev, and everyone.
If you are celebrating it. But anyways, we're going to be looking at another Reap What You Sow moment featuring ProZD. Now this is someone who has made comments about anime and the dubbing scene and voice actors generally, and those comments have continued to haunt him for a very long time. Now in case you're not familiar with who this guy is, he is someone who blew up on YouTube, where for years he made very successful sketches that are anime themed, and eventually he got some opportunities in the anime voice acting dub scene. Now he's become a bit of a meme, especially among anime fans because of his comments about the medium. While his virtue signaling on places like Twitter has gotten seal claps from
oh no, that picture's up there for another minute. Oh gosh.
Members of his industry and some of the most annoying users on social media, a lot of other anime fans, specifically dub fans, are pretty annoyed with some of his comments, especially the ones where he is very hypocritical. He is someone who has advocated for censorship of anime that he considers yucky or gross. And he's also made a lot of comments about authentic casting, which is a very, very hot button issue. Seems very basic in terms of how normal people react to it, but a lot of people are trying to virtue signal. They've been pushing this authentic casting thing for a long time, and ProZD is one of the people at the helm of that movement.
So for anyone that doesn't know what authentic casting is, it's rhetoric in the English VA industry that's essentially just a giant virtue signal filled with immense contradictions and hypocrisy. For example, they'll say that a black character has to be voiced by a black VA, but the black VA can also voice white or Japanese characters, but then they'll turn around and say that white people are not allowed to voice black characters. The English VA for Okrun is a great example of this hypocrisy, as we can see in these tweets that we'll take a look at really quick. So he had said the reason white people in most cases shouldn't be playing POC isn't a matter of color, it's culture. Speaking for black people, we know what a barbershop sounds like on Sundays, what a hot comb smells like when it's going through our hair. It's not the color, it's the culture. And then a year later, he said, every time there is a black actor cast in a role in fantasy where the source material version is lighter skinned, someone always has something to say about it. So tiring. It doesn't affect the character whatsoever. It's okay. So it's immensely hypocritical as mentioned, but on top of that, he's also essentially saying that lighter skinned people don't have culture. He's making that implication. Oh yeah, anyone can voice a lighter skinned character. It doesn't affect the character at all. But yeah, a black character, oh yeah, it's very cultured. Only black people can voice black characters, according to AJ over here. Spoiler alert, you got a ton of backlash for this, ended up running and hiding and being a coward over it, typical stuff.
And ProZD is one of the people at the helm of that movement. Now, when there was a recent project announced, Knights of Guinevere, people were looking at this and then seeing the voice acting cast for the characters, they noticed one thing: ProZD playing this specific character. Now, you look at the two right there side by side. Uh-oh, looks like their ethnicity doesn't really match up. Now, if you're not someone who advocates for authentic casting and, you're a normal person, you don't care about this. But the reason people are in the comments section like this pointing out hypocrisy, it's because he has pushed for authentic casting time and time again, where he wants the ethnicity of the character to match the ethnicity of the voice actor playing them. And this is something he was called out for about 2 years ago. He kind of fell on his own sword with this concept. This is why people are so fired up to see him taking this role.
Once again, rules for Lee, but not for me.
It all began with this situation involving a Bleach dub for the character Yoriichi, and originally this character was played by the voice actress Wendy Lee, who, as you can see, is a white woman, and she's playing a darker skinned character. Nobody cared.
Somewhere out there is a handful of Blue Sky users raging at this image.
Right? She did the role for years. Everything was great. But then there was a recast where a different voice actress, Anaris Quinones, who has darker skin, then took over this role, at least very briefly. And people were making tweets like this, seeing one and one together and thinking, why would you needlessly recast the voice actress for this character when clearly Wendy Lee also wanted to reprise the role? What is going on here? Is this an attempt to virtue signal and promote authentic casting? And eventually, citing complications with scheduling and some confusion, they would give back Wendy Lee the role. So she would end up reprising the role, but people in the voice acting scene and their supporters were very upset about this.
There was a little bit more to it too, because like when Wendy Lee got replaced, there were a lot of virtue signaling Twitter police types just celebrating the replacement. And then as Rev said, once Wendy Lee ended up reprising the role as Yoriichi after all, those people were all mad. A lot of them were even like harassing Wendy Lee over it.
People were crying foul that there was something not right about this. And they were even pointing out Wendy Lee's reaction on social media once she did get her role back, saying she was being insensitive to those comforting Quinones after the recast.
Because she was simply like showing that she was excited to play Yoriichi again. And these people are all offended about that.
And quoting a related post, ProZD would say the recast was already unacceptable, but this is just the effing yikes on top. Now, the last part is referring to what they believe are insensitive comments she was making about the situation, referring to Wendy Lee. But as you can see, the first part is making it very clear. He's implying that the recast, that Wendy Lee getting her role back, was already unacceptable.
Which is absurd. I mean, she never should have been recast to begin with. It did seem like it was a virtue signally authentic casting sort of thing. We actually saw something similar as well from Chad's VA, English VA, where he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing this, but he basically said like, oh, because Chad is half Mexican and I'm a white dude, I don't feel it's appropriate for me to keep voicing Chad in Thousand Year Blood War, because this was when Thousand Year Blood War was just coming back again, after all these years. 8-year, 10-year wait, whatever it was. And so he was like, I'm stepping down. I'm not going to do this role anymore. And of course, we see that Chad has not really had a single line in Thousand Year Blood War anyways. Maybe the dude's had like one line, if that. So bro's going to make this whole virtue signally tweet acting like he's the best dude on the planet over stepping down. And really, he gave up like nothing at all.
And reading between the lines in his support of authentic casting, the only explanation is that he thought she shouldn't play that role because her skin color didn't match up with the character. And this is something he made very clear in an interview around that time.
Do you feel like your opportunities are limited? Do you feel like more opportunities would be open to you if you were, a white male, being by what you've seen so far?
I definitely would have more opportunities if I were white, for sure. There's no doubt about that. I mean, even comparing now to like, let's say like 5-10 years ago, it's definitely changed. Like, I think studios are much more aware of, hey, we should, cast authentically, so there have been some good steps. We still have a long way to go.
So to make
as they just leech off intellectual property from Japan, by the way, like the intellectual property they're referring to, anime, obviously comes from Japan. And Japanese people, when they're like picking who wants to be the VA for these roles, they're not concerned about any of that nonsense. But then these people here in the West, they have such hubris. That's what they start like caring about. It's like, oh, how could we virtue signal? How can we leech off this IP and turn into a giant virtue signal for us?
It's very clear. Authentic casting is something that's trying to force voice actors to only play roles where the ethnicity of the character matches their own. This is something that is so progressive, it is regressive. A lot of these people cite an attempt to even the playing field where minority voice actors will have more opportunities, but that is just not how it plays out in practice, especially in the anime industry. If you have, for example, a black voice actor, they are going to lose roles because of this. Yes, they will get priority on darker skinned characters, but that's only a very small fraction of anime characters. So in the dubbing industry, they're going to lose almost all of their opportunities.
Which is when it goes back to the double standards, because they'll turn around and say like, oh, well, okay, black people can voice Japanese characters or white characters, and of course black characters, but white people can only voice white characters.
And that's something people are pointing out. I know, radical theory for people like this, but discrimination based on the color of your skin, especially with employment opportunities, is not good. But people like ProZD have been pushing this very hard, and lo and behold, he'd fall on his own sword, where back in, I believe, late 2023, he lost a role because of authentic casting. This was applied against himself in this now deleted Twitter thread, where
of course he deleted that.
He was told he cannot take an opportunity to voice a white character because he's, of course, Asian. And he would be very upset about this, even trying to deflect and say the naysayers will go, oh, don't you want authentic casting? And he continues on basically saying this is not an example of that and that the playing field hasn't been leveled, and just really playing the victim in the situation once again. So looking at the entire scope, his continued support for authentic casting.
Yeah, so that goes back to what I said, you know, like he's trying to make the argument that like, well, I should be allowed to voice white characters actually, you know. So he did reap what he sowed, but then he ended up trying to have these double standards with the rhetoric, as so many of them do.
And weaponizing it against people he doesn't like. This happening to him back in 2023 was very ironic. People have not forgotten about this. So when he did go to Twitter and announce his role in this Knights of Guinevere series, people are now mocking him. And here's a great example of how these interactions typically go. Here's Madam Savvy saying, aren't you the blow-up pool ball who said you have to look like the character you voice? And of course, blocked. And this is something...
I love how that implies that ProZD saw that tweet, just like raged and blocked her.
He's been doing forever. This has been the play, so to speak. I got blocked as well for a different tweet that I briefly referred to at the beginning of the video, where he was talking about the anime series Made in Abyss. And he was making a claim about that, saying he wishes that parts of the show would be removed, referring to what he considers the creepy stuff. And then when he got major backlash for criticizing his own industry's tropes, he would try to say, oh, it's just a joke, and that anyone who has an issue with this is not normal and basically stupid. And I made a very bland post, not even directly interacting with his post, rather a screenshot, and I would get blocked. And I thought it was a very mundane thing, but...
Yeah, hold on, I want to go see what Rev said. Calls for censorship of an anime, gets criticized, claims it was all a joke, and that wanting to censor anime is not censorship. Has he ever considered simply avoiding anime containing themes he doesn't like?
A screenshot, and I would get blocked. And I thought it was a very mundane thing, but it was too much. That's been the play for him, is to block anyone who criticizes him one way or another. And that...
If bro doesn't want criticism, why does he have to make like crazy, insane takes on social media?
Has been confirmed again. Just before recording this, he did make a response to everything going on with the current series he's voicing in. And he says, hey all, this will be my last tweet on this platform. I will no longer be using Twitter after this. If you look at the replies on my latest announcement tweet, you'll see a lot of comments like this. This has been going on for years now, and while the normal procedure has been to block and move on, I truly don't think Twitter is worth it anymore. In the past, I have expressed that I think diversity in casting is important. It's a complicated topic, but at the end of the day, I will stand by this. I think it's important for...
Okay, pause already. It's not complicated at all. You guys are hypocritical, virtue-signaling weirdos. It's not complicated.
Voice actors to be given equal opportunity.
It's also not diversity either, by the way, for the record.
And I think there have been positive changes on that front. A lot of bad faith arguers have tried to paint this as me saying things I never said. And of course, we're going to read the part 2 of this, but we know he's not just promoting diversity. In fact, authentic casting that he has made very clear is something he supports, does the exact opposite in practice. We all know this. It's ruining a naturally, very organically diverse industry where your looks shouldn't matter whatsoever. It's just the quality of your voice acting.
Yeah, Rev's right. Well said, Rev.
Skill, but anyways, He continues on saying, I've been reluctant to address this for years because I know a lot of these people will not listen to reason no matter what I say, and I have not wanted to add to this ongoing drama. Twitter especially is a cesspool for hatred, and it's been awful these past few years, but I think it's important for people to know that this has been happening. This is the last time I'll comment on any of this. Goodbye, Twitter. You truly suck. And he gives 3 examples of cherry-picked comments, most of them with only a few likes.
Yeah, so there were a bunch of people criticizing his rhetoric in the responses and, like, you know, logically explaining why the rhetoric is bad, why it's a bad mentality to have, right? And then he cherry picks like some that are just insults. And it's like, oh, all the comments were like this. And of course, he doesn't acknowledge any of the much more plentiful comments that, by the way, also had much more engagement on them that actually made like good points. Instead, he cherry picks some insults and tries to imply, oh, this is what everyone's saying.
Where there's
very cowardly thing to do.
Saying things about his race. Obviously, very aggressive comments, but he's cherry picking these responses to make it sound like he is the subject of racism. Like, that's the only thing going on here. Now, this is part of the reason why I always say this type of stuff detracts from the real criticism. This stuff serves as an opportunity for someone like ProZD to show these comments and say, oh, it's because these people are racist. They're just, you know, acting outrageous. They're doing these things while deflecting all the valid criticism people are actually giving. That's why you don't give people like ProZD a chance to play the victim. And that's what he did immediately. He doesn't.
Fortunately, everyone could see through what he did. He's like knows it's cherry picking. Knows that he's dodging the actual criticisms that people have leveled.
Any of the criticism about his support of authentic casting and how he is quite literally violating his own principles by taking this role. Rules for thee, but not for me, is really the way to sum this up. And also, people were also pointing out that authentic casting wouldn't even support other people playing in the show. But anyways, I think you really get the point. That's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below.
Very good video by Rev. Thank you, Rev, for covering that. It was a fun one to watch. And so this ultimately concluded with ProZD not just making that damage control tweet that we saw that ended up, you know, just making things worse for him, really, but also locking down his entire Twitter account. As you can see, it is now in protected mode, apparently from now into the indefinite future, but he is still over on Blue Sky. So yeah, you know, he'll fit right in with what's the ex-Paimon VA? He'll fit right in with Karina Betger over there and Little Krebo and all those people. You know, I'm sure they're glad to have him there. Maybe Kaylee Mills can throw a welcome party for him or something. But as for this video, that's all I gotta say. Let me know what you guys think about this stuff in the comments. Thank you for tuning in. I will link Rev's video in the description too, by the way, of course. And please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed my coverage. Appreciate it. See you in the comments here and in the next one.